When you design a solution, you use it the way you intend to. But when people use it, data's telling you how they're using it, how they're interpreting the solution provided, even with guidance and training. It elevates my job, right? It lets me do what I'm supposed to be doing. 6 out of 8 hours of my job, I'm doing a lot of tactical things. And if I can offload that, then I can really grow in my strategic and creative and innovative role that I should be doing. So that mindset shift, I got it from the cohort.
Welcome to another episode of AI Product Leader, where every week we shine a light on what it really takes to join the AI world. Real conversations with AI builders, founders, product leaders, AI experts, technologists, and everything in between to understand where the world of AI is right now and what that path looks like, whether you're building AI products or a career in AI. I'm your host, Polly Allen. I'm founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping product managers navigate the world of AI and transition into AI leadership roles. And I spend my career on both the product management and software development sides of the fence. I'm an ex-Alexa AI principal product manager, where I successfully launched the very first generative AI answers on Alexa. And I'm super excited to have my guest joining me today, Sudha Kumar. Welcome, Sudha.
Hi, Polly.
Sudha is a powerhouse product leader who thrives at the intersection of data, compliance, and user impact. With more than a decade of experience scaling B2B SaaS platforms and modernizing federal IT systems, she has delivered measurable outcomes across sectors, from 30% faster healthcare audits to driving product revenue at over 50 companies. With a gift for simplifying complex workflows, she's now applying her technical fluency and user empathy to the next generation of AI-powered enterprise tools, focusing on system compliance, reliability, and trust in the AI age. So timely. Sudha, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so glad you could make it.
Thank you for having me, Polly. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So you've got a really interesting background that blends so much technical depth with some of the key pieces that are so hot today in AI: compliance, safety, user trust. I'd love to just hear a little more about your background. Can you walk us through a little more about how you got into technology and your career in the space so far?
I'd love to. Well, the start of it is not all that great, right? It's boring. I did engineering in computer sciences. Kind of like my career was like, okay, you have a bachelor's degree in computer science. What are you going to do? Become a programmer, right? So I kicked off my career as a developer. I fell in love with backend programming. I loved logic, business logic, data. That's my true love, but I've been an application and web developer. So sometimes I do have to fix pixel thingies on the front end, but I loved it. I loved the whole experience. And as I gained more experience, I found out that I'm just a people person. I love people. I love to see their faces light up when we deliver a feature that's totally what they wanted, that saves 2 minutes in their day, but they're bringing you brownies for saving the 2 minutes, right? So very gratifying. So eventually I had mentors along the way who suggested that I either go into management, people management, technical people management.
Yeah.
And then came the dawn of Agile, and Scrum Master became an individual contributor with this, that combined my ability to talk to people, but also build products. So that's where I pivoted. And then another great leader trusted my abilities and brought me on as a product manager. I learned on the job. And I found it to be a very, very gratifying position because I still got to be a little bit technical, right? I've coded in all the way from VB to React. And that's after that, I'm like, okay, I can't keep up with the new technology now, and we no longer use JavaScript. We no longer use these. We don't use panels, right? There's always a new tech that comes to overtake. There's always technical debt. And I just felt like I understood enough of the workings of the behind the scenes. I love to interact with people and understand their real problem.
Yeah.
So user engagement goes high, right? So the gap between what is needed and what is delivered becomes shorter. I thought that would be a great niche for me to manage both worlds.
Oh, excellent. So product management has really been your first love, but you've maintained a focus on data, right? Through a lot of your roles
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that has been, data just came naturally to me because when I looked at data, I always had gone like, why?
Yeah.
Because I'm coding data to do this. I designed the structures of the tables and the objects.
Yeah.
Why does it not give me the same thing that I'm expecting, right? Because when you design a solution, you use it the way you intend to. But when people use it, data's telling you how they're using it, how they're interpreting the solution provided, even with guidance and training, right? So that's how my love for data started. But then as I dipped in and learned more and more about data and how valuable it is, especially in the product role, because you own your product backlog.
Yeah.
So delivering value is again a delicate art, right? You balance where your business wants to go. You're watching for the dollar amounts that you're aiming and you're targeting for your financials. But then you also have to know that what you're delivering is doing what it is. So your users are using your system, and data is the only way that you can get the affirmations outside of all the other warm and fuzzy ways to get, feedback.
Right. Things are a little less clinical, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
speaking of clinical, I was noting you were the health tech space. You
Mhm.
are driving a platform initiatives, right, at Vital. And I thought that was so interesting that, like, I often say you don't necessarily have to have a deep technical background to be a PM, but for platform roles, it could be super helpful. Did you find that like as a platform PM, having that extra depth in technical, being able to write your own SQL queries and pull data as needed was really helpful?
100%. In Vital, by far, that was the best role for me
Hmm.
in terms of leveraging more of what I was good at
Yeah.
and, learning completely new things too. So
Yeah.
for me, the capability to get into the data and understand, we did so many different things. Probably we were a very small team with very large dreams like any other company out there, but there was a lot of freedom and trust because of my technical background. So we did these integrations with PwC sensors, right? We threw them on the assets on the hospitals, and then we were able to shift into predictive maintenance. So preventive maintenance is one thing, corrective is one thing, and then you go into predictive. So there was slightly there already, machine learning, AI. I was already leaning in there. I
Yeah.
just didn't know I was already doing AI. So being able to look at data, and any platform, when you build a SaaS platform, there are so many modules that are the backbone of your platform that you can't explain to your end users. Like we needed a permissions module, super complicated, layers of data segregation, client segregation, but we needed to provide something that was trustworthy enough to have admin users within our clients and within our company as well, as right, like as a platform owner, turning on access to modules, turning it off, assigning always these duplicates, replicates, so there's so many things that platform wise you have to understand and appreciate. And because of the understanding, the capability to manage the backlog, right?
Right.
You can't push away technical debt forever. So being able to sense the dependencies and allowing for the development team to bump up the story points, if you will, to do the right thing in
Right.
order to deliver a feature, right?
Yeah.
So it's less maintenance down the road. It was not a struggle for me, right? I was able to understand the tech speak and I was able to communicate it to the users.
Yeah.
Hopefully did it in a fair way, but like
Agreed.
everybody else, I may not have shined there every single project.
But having that tech background really, really helps when you're gaining that trust and credibility from the tech team that you're not going to try and railroad them into doing something that's the wrong choice for the platform, or vice versa, right? That you're like you
100%.
explain the trade-off from the user perspective so they don't make a technology forward decision. Yeah.
Exactly. Other huge benefit is I was like tier 2, tier 3 support as well, right? So when we got some hot priority ticket items, I didn't just report what the user saw. So it came to me as a PM for prioritization. So first step is me. So I go look at the raw data. I had access to all of the, error logs and all the databases. So then I could go query them and then figure it out and even have a theory. I'm not saying I was always right, but to
Right.
have a direction for the dev team, that's a
Yeah.
huge plus, right? So to assign to the right resources, to be able to prioritize it and shift off scope for them because
Yeah.
now they're on this hot priority ticket. All of that really came in handy.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's really, especially at that platform PM level, the engineering team is just looking for someone who can do that extra layer of collaboration
Right.
and get things like this much closer to
Right.
something that they can work on quickly and easily without having to
Exactly.
fight for resources or
Yeah.
exactly. Man. And what also makes sense too that you're coming from this background of heavily regulated industries like healthcare, that
Hmm.
with your move into AI, you've been so focused on compliance. I know for working together, you did a capstone project on kind of compliance, regulation, safety, trust. Can you tell
Right.
us a little more about that work that you did?
So for the capstone project, so the last job that I did at Vital, it's a heavily regulated body, right? So we did the healthcare facility maintenance and asset maintenance. So along with it came these various regulating bodies that certified them. And then a lot of the work, it's so labor intensive and time intensive. And the knowledge it's based on the person and their experience
Yeah.
because one violation, the way you predict a standard and the way you're writing up a violation violation could totally turn the risk level from medium to high.
Mhm.
And then a certain number of highs put the hospitals at risk, right? Their operating procedures will have to change. Their flow will have to change. Who addresses the risk will have to change.
Yeah.
This is something that impacts all of us, right? We all go into the emergency rooms. We all go to the doctor. So we do expect and completely believe blindly that it's all up to standard. We're getting the best care possible. But there's a lot of cogs and wheels behind it. And there's a lot of good rules in place. But it is a great field, I feel, to apply AI because a lot of it is repetitive.
Yeah.
Some bodies come every 3 years, some bodies come every year. They're following through the same. It's already labor intensive because you have to walk through multiple floors, each room, each fridge.
So this is like
Right?
they're walking through hospitals, actually checking from a checklist, like, okay, is this fridge secure, or like,
Right.
is this fire extinguisher checked within the date range? And
100%.
And-
Is it at the right height even? So they're walking around with tools. They're walking around with documents. So they need to remember everything. They're noting it down in paper pads.
Yeah.
They need to remember where they are. And then they have all of these tools to measure the temperature, the pressure gauges, and these little, tapes to measure that, is it at a certain height? Is the walkway blocked? There are so many things, big and small. Is there a prominent warning on the door? Is it hidden by something? Is the fridge, clearly marked for what's a patient specimen versus something that's not as, careful? Is it dated properly? Every single thing is noted down.
Yeah.
And they could have the same thing in every floor.
Right.
So they come back, they document this, and then they have to map it to specific standards within the certifying agency
Yeah.
in order to produce a report to tell the hospital that here's how you looked at, here are the immediate risk ones you need to address. And then comes another set of rules, right? Which ones need address when, by whom. There are multiple ways you can address these and still keep your certifications, still keep your hospital operating at high efficiency.
Totally.
A lot of this can be automated. And so
Yeah.
that was what my capstone project was. Very small piece of that is the capability. One, the auditors felt it would be awesome if they could walk around, even in a no network zone,
Yeah.
walk around, have something that they can have on the phone. It can geolocate you, can geotag you, and it knows that you're in building A.
Right.
Even if not down to the floor level, you
Yeah.
go quickly select a floor, then it lists down your rooms. You say you're in the nurse's station, and then you can quickly say, I see that some of the ceilings tiles are stained, at least 4 or 5. I see that there's a water leak. There's a moldy smell from underneath the sink. So they can add each one of these as a finding, and AI, who better, right? AI can read and it can get trained on multiple ways that a person can word this finding and then say, oh, if you are going to this particular library, it can tag to these 3 standards. So
Right.
AI does, because that's bulk of their work. They come back and then they have to go through all the findings they documented and then they map it to standards. So that was just a small piece. And then the bigger solution, the complete solution would still use AI heavily,
Yeah.
where we could suggest to them, what is the recommended plan that I address this? So I won't be, tagged for this finding again.
Exactly. Well, and the stakes are high. I remember you were saying like some hospitals, it's like you have to shut down your emergency department, which is like
It really is.
your
Yeah.
biggest moneymaker
Yeah.
tomorrow unless you address the following things. So the compliance audits are required by law. You have to meet them by law, but the labor involved. I love compliance as a use case for AI. I think you were really, really smart to pick this one up as a thing to investigate because I think it's something where AI does provide immediate, obvious value, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so exciting. What I loved about your capstone too is you actually evaluated how accurate it was.
Yes.
So how well did it match up people's, findings to these guidelines? Can you remember?
Yeah.
I don't remember the accuracy. Do you remember how accurate it was? I remember that you had
I
measured.
got up to 79% on 100 findings that I had to cook up. But granted, it is, only 1,000 or so is what I trained for my training data set, about 1,000 findings. But yeah, I got up to 79%. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so that it was really cool that to see. I mean, in this era right now where everyone's so obsessed with evaluation and validation, as they should be, too many companies don't have that as a capability. They're like vibe evaluating, being like, well, if the customer says it's good, someone finds an error,
Yeah.
Really impressed to see how you were able to evaluate it and improve it, tweak
Thank
the
you.
parameters, etc. And you've also in your more recent role at Renovo been kind of laying the groundwork for AI companies in an important way, right? I'd love to hear more about that and how you're working with the data systems there.
100%. So the capstone project was the perfect one that told me that my role at Renovo was the the right role for me, the next correct step for me to become an AI PM. While I was doing my capstone project, like you mentioned, right? So I took a very small set of standards because each accrediting body has multiple standards. So I took a very small set of standards for 3 or 4 categories, and then they call it chapters. So then 3 or 4 chapters within the standards. And then I tried to write the findings different way, right? Some people say I found water stagnate by the sink. Some people say the tap's leaking. Both are same, right? They're related to plumbing, but they could mean very different things when it comes to where it's mapped. Is it environmental safety? Because really the room that you're in matters too. If you're in a patient room and you're noticing mold, well, that's way more serious than when you went down to the basement and there's this one rest area there that nobody uses and there's mold there, right? You still need to address it, but the criticality is different. So when I trained AI, I found out that I was so happy. Some days I'd come out with like more than 80% validation on every different way that I could write a finding. Then I found that my model was very trained on that particular finding and it tended to tag everything under that same chapter. So based on how I worded, I'm like, why this? Because this is fire safety. Why are you telling me it's environment of care? I clearly said that the fire extinguisher is blocked, but why are you doing this? So then I had to improve my prompt engineering and add more rules and give more examples in my prompt in order for it to say that don't default go here. So I had to
Don't be
give it
biased.
almost like, yeah, I had to break it down. The standards are broken down by chapter and then particular standard. And then within that, a particular, they call it EP, element of performance. So there is a natural hierarchy to how an auditor manually would do the judgment to say, this is more a low risk because it's here, but this is more of a medium risk because it's a critical zone. So I had to kind of train it like that. And I understood the power of, so AI is more a reflection of the decision maker, right? That was the learning for me. So if I'm smart, if I'm intentional, and I give it the clarity it needs and give it the right training data set, it reflects well. But when I tend to be narrow and, I have a very narrow set of intention, it doesn't automatically extrapolate. It is only as deep as I tell it to be. So that is how my role with data. So I got to work with Renovo. They're a home renovation company, but 6 different operating companies were combining to become one. So that's 6 different operations, 6 different data sources, and we had to harmonize the way they define the same thing, right? Like you can call a raw lead one thing versus the other company defines a raw lead as a different thing, right? So if you get a name
data is worse than no data in some cases.
Exactly. So I understood the power of having data and data definition solid before we can tell AI what to do with that data, because otherwise hallucination is, your guess versus my guess. It's like, how much can you rely on AI? It doesn't know. It can tell that, it may remember your chat from yesterday and say, answer you right today, but for next week, it may forget that chat and give you a different decision, right? So that's how Renovo, I got a thorough look into data and the importance of data definition, importance of data harmonization, and being able to clearly articulate it to something as simple as chat GPT, right? Just prompt engineering. That's where I think, we as humans have to be proud, because it's our communication style that can teach intuitiveness to AI, because intuitiveness is not natural to AI, right? It's trained. It's a well-trained, smart model, but it isn't intuitive. So
absolutely. And it's also just that that judgment and insight into these are the same thing, these aren't the same thing. It really does require iteration, right? And tenacity. I think that's what you're displaying with that, taking a system and improving it, is that tenacity to dig deep into the data, understand why are you getting confused.
100%. I used to teach my children when they were young, chicken is food, healthy food, but for humans, right? Plant also needs food, but sunlight and water. If you feed your plant chicken every day and your human only sunlight and water every day, it doesn't equal. But AI doesn't know that, right? Like if you just tell AI chicken is food, great food, good food, and sunlight and water are food, and here are people who consume food, unless you tell AI the rule that switching them around can cause them to not live well.
My sunlight and water dinner is satisfying.
Exactly. So data is everything. So, and the rules that bind the data. So I really love Renovo because it gave me a deeper dive into the importance of data and how it's set up.
Yeah, exactly. And it was all about, if you can't provide the context properly to AI, there's so much systematic work that needs to be done to lay the groundwork. But it got such insight into exactly the problem that a lot of tech companies are having right now, where they're trying to get beyond, hey, a quick POC to actually hey, now use real data at scale. And they're finding out their data is not not
Right.
as descriptive or, in a way that provides the right context. Can you talk a little bit about how you got here? You obviously got this rich experience now in AI. How did you first start out when you knew you were interested in getting deeper into the
So
AI space?
the first thing when I think about AI is the fear, right? So technology is ever changing. I'm not new to that. I come from a tech background. But with AI, it seemed like it came out of nowhere and was like this huge wave that suddenly I'm like, what did I miss? I just winked in. Everybody's talking AI. My LinkedIn is all AI this, AI that. And then there is this whole AI PM. I'm like, I felt very left behind. So it was really just a fear. And part of me actually was saying, like, did I outgrow, like, is technology a done deal for me, right? And then your podcast showed up, Holly. I attended 2 or 3 of your podcasts through LinkedIn, and the way you went about it, right? Like the way you said, like, oh, if you're feeling left behind, like it was almost like you scripted it for me. I don't know how many people felt it that way. It was like, oh, she knows that I'm feeling left behind, right? So it was more a feeling of left behindness, and I just felt like I am already too late for this game. So then when I signed up for the course and then I joined in, the way the labs and the courses were designed, low code, no code. I mean, when previous to my joining the course, low code, no code scared me. I felt like, well, that's my strength, right? That I understand code. But if you tell me that AI can do that part, so couldn't another well articulated person talk to AI then? Like, why? Because my strength is in translating non-technical folks' requirements to a technical folk. So if AI can do it, what am I bringing, right? So that was another thing that really I had a lot of inhibitions diving into AI. But then when I joined cohort, then I'm like, I figured out that it's a partner, right? It's not AI is a decision support tool. AI can be trained. I'm going to do everything that I do as a product manager. I'm going to figure out, it's on me to figure out the problem. It's on me to, figure out all the possible solutions. It's on me to pick up the scalability and an MVP and a course on how to go there. But then it's also on me to figure out, where can I get efficiency gains? Where can I go to AI or tell my engineers that, hey, can we make this a model? Because I see that over years we'll build value here. Our model can be trained, and then in 10 years, our product can go here. So it elevates my job, right? It lets me do what I'm supposed to be doing. 6 out of 8 hours of my job, I'm doing a lot of tactical things. And if I can offload that, then I can really grow in my strategic and creative and innovative role that I should be doing. So that mindset shift, I got it from the cohort. So I really think that we need that. We all need the person who can come and, break the ice for you and say, AI is not a scary tech that you may consider or, throw it in to make you look fancy. It's not like that. It's a way of thinking, and it's how creative you get with where you use it. Now I think the real challenge is just that. Where did you bake in AI here, right? Like it's figuring out your 7-layer cake. Where do you have the pista? And I'm getting pistachio, I'm getting chocolate chips, but where did you pair it, right? So I really think
the
that
taste, the element of taste when you're designing an AI system. I love it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. It's just so great to hear that was so helpful for you, and that the mindset piece is actually a big part of it, is just having potentially a group and a guide to make it more approachable. I've seen you grow. You have so much more confidence now with AI, and to take on these initiatives. When people are starting out, if you had one sentence of advice for them, someone who's getting into AI, what would you say that one sentence would be?
Well, I'll just go with what I just said. If you feel left behind, you're already ahead of the curve. Act on it.
I love it.
Do something, don't shun it away. If you get that little birdie in your head that says you're already behind in AI, I think that's a great first step. Jump in, dive, figure out there are so many options there to take it away. And if you can communicate, if you are able to talk to somebody and get your point across to them, a great way to start on AI and reduce your fears is by doing ChatGPT. Do prompt engineering, because that is communication. So do prompt engineering, and then you'll gain the confidence to say it's not a scary thing. So if you feel behind, you're already ahead. That'll be my punchline.
I love it. Excellent. Thanks so much for your insight and advice.
Thank you.
We have time for one last section, and that is plugs. So is there anything you want to plug, or how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in chatting with you more about AI or opportunities where people need help getting their data ready for AI systems?
I'm on LinkedIn. I would really like to chat with anybody. I've been in women in tech groups. I've gone to school and volunteers to teach, and I would really love it. I really think if anybody wants to reach out about volunteering my time to make more people feel like I feel a little bit more confident in AI and feel like AI is a partner, I'd love to do that. I'd also like to meet with any other people who's in the same boat as me. How do we cross certain bridges, because AI is so fresh and new. Everybody wants AI, but how do we get there? How do we strategize it is one thing, but how do we convince to keep the journey going, right? Once you add a chatbot, is it done? How do we leverage it more? How do we rely more on it? And how do we improve training and validation? So I'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in any of this, but if not, if you have children in the teens, and I would love to reach out to anybody. Tips, tricks, I am available to reach out to anybody at any level for mentoring and to mentor as well in any areas that my LinkedIn resume shows. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Sudha. That's very generous. And I'll make sure that your LinkedIn is in the show notes as well. So
Thank you so much, Polly. Thank you. I
My
truly appreciate this time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I always like to end off by suggesting that people like and follow the show. So if you'd love to hear more stories about what is working on the ground, what are people really building, and how are they transitioning into AI roles, do like and subscribe podcast on any of the platforms coming up. Thanks again, Sudha. I really appreciate you coming. And this week's AI Product Leader podcast. We'll see you in another couple of weeks. Bye for now.
Thank you, Polly. Bye.